Welcome to UncommonCents. This is the audio edition. Dean Holmes and Craig Kouimanis here with another episode. And today, Craig, we're talking about wearing many hats, but we're drilling down on one of your favourite hats.
Yes, mate. We all know in advice businesses, there's advisor, CEO, and business owner. And sometimes, a lot of the time, someone's wearing all three hats. But today we're going to put the CEO hat on. It's my favourite hat. And I guess just to summarise this up, we're going to talk about the four key things that a CEO of an advice business, probably of any business really, should be focusing on. So I'd like us to run through people, process, clients and financials. I think it's a great focus for the CEO and it's a nice place for us to kick off. So people.
Tell us.
This is about, do we have the right people in the business? Are we listening to the people in the business? The right person, right role. And actually probably doing that in reverse though. What roles do I need in my business? And then am I putting the right people into the right role? I see time and time again, we'll keep Dean around. He's been here for 25 years. He's so lovely. He does absolutely nothing every day. And he just annoys everybody, but he's been here for so long, so we really should keep him. But is that what's right for people for your business today? So what roles does this business need and who should be the right person in it to actually make the whole thing hum? And
how often are you doing this, Craig? So the right people seat concept, I think that goes back to Jim Collins and his friends on the bus. What is the frequency that we should be thinking about? Do I have the right organizational structure in my business?
If you want to put a frequency on it, you should have your finger on the pulse and be watching it. But I think at least annually you've got to review what's happened in the business, where are we at, what's next, where are we going to go, what's our strategy, what do we need to win? Yep. And make that work. So I would say at least annually it needs to be reviewed, but you do need that finger on the pulse, Dean, just to be sense checking stuff to make sure that nothing's going off tilt.
Yeah, and so that's a capacity. One of the things that I'm focused on understanding is the numbers that sit behind these things to go, well, what are the leading indicators that might tell me that I need an extra staff member in a particular department? And so right people, right seat is a great framework. And then in that concept of keeping your finger on the pulse, it's hard always to walk around and look over people's shoulders and go, oh, they look busy. Yeah. The data is really important to me, just really understanding maybe it's the number of tasks in X-Plan or it's the things are starting to slip in terms of your deliverables or the client experience is dropping because you don't have enough front-end staff. And so for me, the right people, right seat is a really good concept. And if we can put data over the top of it, the data is the leading indicator to make sure that we're making those decisions ahead of time, not reactively, either to a person leaving because they were overworked or clients leaving because they were underserviced. Yeah,
you're right, mate. It's in any good strategic plan, whichever framework you follow, it ends up nailing down to how are we going to hold ourselves accountable to that? How are we going to measure what's actually going on? And so you're absolutely spot on. It's putting the right data points in, but it's then having those measured accurately and looking at them and not accepting mediocrity on them. Not going, oh, okay, it's another month like that, but it'll be okay. You've actually really got to use that then to strategically drive your decision, which is why we're talking today about having the right hat on. Yep. Because with the right hat on, you'll view that data differently.
Yep, correct.
I always joke when I do a fee increase in the licensee that if you actually talk to the business owners about why you're doing the fee increase and what's happened and what the factors are around it, the business owner will get a fee increase. The advisor, with the advisor hat on, will go, why are you putting my fees up?
Yes.
It's not fair, where the business owner gets it. So it's important in this context, you got your CEO hat on, you look at the data as a CEO.
Yep, understood.
Yep.
And so this is a punchy episode. What's the people side? What do we need to know or be doing with the people? The right person.
The right person.
What's our leading indicator to tell us something's going wrong?
Going well or going wrong?
You choose.
Yeah, I guess going is you're hitting benchmarks in terms of revenue. If it's like advisors and numbers of clients that they're seeing, and are they hitting like the sale? Oh, don't say that. No. Are they hitting the sales target that you've put in place for them? Back office wise, you might have turnaround times on when one piece of data comes in, how you get that data back. So it could be an SOA or a plan, or if this goes in, we know that 3 days later it needs to come back out. If all of a sudden that's 7 or 8 days, what's happening?
But isn't that micromanagement, Craig?
But is it actually micromanaging the person, or are you just looking at the data? Like, there's a difference between, like you just said, leaning over the shoulder of someone and why haven't you done this, versus sitting back and you're not checking it every day. Now, that's actually a good point, though, because some people will get sucked into looking at metrics daily.
Yep.
And that's the wrong decision.
That's the views on UncommonCents. I actually do a lot of those views. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're good. So you're the person that gets our viewership up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just keep watching
But
it.
no, but it's a trap, right? Like, if it's putting $1,000 in the share market and looking at it every day, that's silly. Like, the same is when you put these data measures in place for your business. If you try and track that every day, you're going to drive yourself nuts, and that is micro. But actually, to challenge you on that, looking at data over a period and measuring it and whatever is actually quite macro when you think about it, because it's a strategic view on to see what I should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we track weekly numbers in lots of our businesses, but it's not the number this week that is the determinant of any choices we make. It's actually the sum of the analysis of the last 12 weeks of numbers.
Yes.
And you can see the trend at which it's going on. So that's quick fire on people, Craig.
Yep.
Let's jump across to process. These are my two. People and process are the big things. Tell us what the CEO should be thinking about in terms of business process.
So they might not necessarily need to be right deep in the nitty-gritty of it, but here they should be thinking about innovation. And I've said this before, don't confuse that with invention. This isn't coming up with some massive monster of something to make everything wonderful.
So I shouldn't sign up to a new tech solution as part of my innovation strategy?
Maybe no, because we see that a lot, don't we? That'll fix it. No, it won't. And this is the biggest thing. Tech doesn't solve the process. You actually need to get a process built first and then find the tech that will help it. But the CEO's job on process is, again, to be looking at the metrics, to seeing if it's keeping the business on track, and to find ways to innovate. Just micro changes to things that make people's lives better, that make the process quicker, that just simply brings, I guess, a better outcome for the firm on it, and to be looking at that. So don't, as a CEO, be knee deep in it and in it. Sit out of it, watch the metrics again, and then think, how do I innovate?
Yep, brilliant. So I love the idea that you can be in what I call it, like the general's tower. You're up the top, you're observing what's going on, and you've constantly see the start, middle, and end of any particular process, whereby sometimes your team can only see the part of the process that they're deeply involved in or responsible for. And so you can't go down and help them without understanding the full context, which is why you need to be up there in the general's tower overall. And so, the message of innovate, not invent.
Yeah, innovate, don't invent.
We don't need to invent a lot in our financial planning businesses. We're all actually doing the same thing. And this idea here, often just as a funny example of people that see CRMs making SOAs and there's the promise of the fully automation part of it, but then they fight over what the title page looks like or what the font size is and things like that. So don't try to invent things that don't actually add value.
Correct.
Only innovate on top of existing things works really well.
And keep the noise out. There's lots of noise. There's lots of people coming at you wanting to solve problems, and keep all the noise out. If you've got the right strategy and you know what you're measuring and you're looking at that process, don't let stuff come in that's going to interfere with that. Don't get sidetracked.
That's the CEO, Craig.
Yeah.
If we forget for a moment that we're CEOs of our small business and wearing multiple hats, if you think about a CEO of a very large company and try to emulate them, they're not being distracted by anything at all. They're laser focused on what the strategy is, and they're focused on removing roadblocks in order to execute the strategy. And so they're not getting distracted with any bright, shiny toys through that process. And so the more things that we say no to, the more successful your business will be. Whether that's saying no, unfortunately, to the BDM or finding out about something new where you don't need to. The problem is that when that person might call you, they might have the greatest thing, but if it doesn't fit into the strategy now, it's not the right time for you to be having the conversation.
No.
And so we need to have that system where we take the ideas and we're just deferring the thinking about it till the appropriate point in time. And so you don't have to take all those meetings and distract now for the future.
Yep.
CEO Craig is also thinking about clients. So CEO may not be an advisor, but definitely not an advisor in the concept of wearing the CEO hat. What's the CEO thinking about?
So obviously they're thinking about the number of clients they've got and what the metric looks like. We keep going back to metrics, but it's true, isn't it? But the metric of how many clients does the firm need, how many has it got today, how many does it want tomorrow, and that type of stuff. That's high level on it. But then I think a CEO actually, and if they're not, they should, and we were talking about this earlier, meet with clients, talk with clients. Like you don't have to go in and meet with them about financial planning, but meet with them, understand what's on their mind, what's their challenge, what are they doing, how are they doing it, and that's where they're going to get insight, and that's where they're going to find out what's important.
And it's a different level of research that you can do when you talk to consumers. So I know that there's been CEOs that might listen to phone calls, for example, on the CSO line of a large bank, for example. So they listen in on the calls, or they go and visit on the ground on the customers and things like that. And that's a great way of reacquainting yourself with kind of like the purpose.
Yep.
At the end of the day, if you are playing this CEO role and you don't get to have client interactions, you're missing out on a valuable piece of information to actually help you execute on the strategy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Can I use a live example?
Go for it.
And I wasn't in a CEO role. I was in a leadership role. It was in the bank running a financial planning team.
Which bank?
You might be right.
In a few more years, no one will know what that means.
No
but please continue, Mr. Kouimanis.
But it still lasts now. But the reality was I was running an advice team, and we needed a close relationship with the branch. Right? That's where our referrals came from. So that particular bank at the time had what they called a concierge, which was a person who stood at the front of the branch. As people came in, they greeted them, they listened, they helped direct them where to go, what to do. Yep. I decided to concierge in every single branch in my area. And then I asked my advisors to do the same thing. Drop the palaver and all of that kind of thing, get a concierge badge and go and stand in the front of that door when they open at 9 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock, and mate, it was 9 o'clock. And when I worked at a bank, people lined up to come into banks. People won't know what lining up to go into a branch is in years to come either, but they did. And the dauntingness of someone walking through the door and you having to direct them. But the things we learnt about the behaviour and the psychology and what went on with clients when they came into a branch, because we'd keep sitting there going, you had that client in front of you, why didn't you refer them to me? But if you actually played the concierge role and sat there and listened and watched that interaction, there's actually never a moment in time for that branch person to stop and go, do you want to see our financial planner?
Yes, correct. And not at the time they're coming in for something else.
Yeah, so what we learned from that, Dean, so this is the classic watching the client example, is we actually started saying to branch staff, don't get the referral today, but why don't you call them tomorrow and say, Dean, I've been thinking about you overnight. You mentioned about that $500,000 you got in your term deposit and you're not sure what you should do with it. And I couldn't stop thinking about you last night. Maybe you should see our advisor. And so it takes the whole pressure off of it right in the moment. And it allows them to follow up. But we would have never picked up on that if we didn't go and deal with the actual clients.
What it was like
and what it was like on the cold face. Yep. And so that's what CEOs, I think, even in advice businesses need to do. Get an understanding, speak to them.
Maybe even do an SOA.
Maybe they should.
No, don't do that one. Last category, Craig, of the CEO. Tell us about the financials.
It's an interesting one, mate, because without it, the business isn't really working, is it? Or surviving or doing that. And so I guess, again, it's keeping an eye on, number one, doing goal setting and appropriate goal setting around the financials, what you want to achieve, not just revenue, really focusing on profit. Actually, I shouldn't just go there. It probably depends where your financial advice business is at. If you're a startup and you put your CEO hat on, you're probably focused on generating revenue. That's your goal. But then evolving as the CEO to go, when do I flick that switch and then turn it into a profit conversation? Yep. So again, financials is the same. In its most simple sense, what are we bringing in? What's going out? What have we got left? But actually knowing what you want that to be and keeping an eye on it and not actually just doing the she'll be right. Yep. Setting goals, trying to hit them, trying to achieve them. And trying to smash them, really, like if you can. But
yeah, absolutely. And there's probably on the flip side, there's always a little bit of expenses creep. So it's a detail. Unfortunately, it ends up being a detail that you end up with too many subscriptions to too many Netflixes or whatever the business example of is that. And so being responsible for that side of it as well, and knowing what their business needs to invest in as well.
Yeah, and I think, Dean, link that back to people. Like having a really good bookkeeper is actually such a smart decision that firms can make. I know you advocate for with these people around you because they know how to keep an eye on the minutiae and the detail, and they know how to alert you about it and keep you responsible for that. And so I think you can link those two together a bit. Don't be afraid to, I'm a financial planning business, I should be able to be in control of this.
You don't need to. You don't need to be across all the details of the numbers just because you're a financial advisor or were a financial advisor, now a CEO. But you're absolutely right. It's getting the right people around you to give you the information that you need to make the right decision.
Exactly.
And so that comes to the profitability as well, as like when I build the best spreadsheets ever. See that the best spreadsheets ever. The concept there is that we forecast profitability, and the profitability obviously continues to go up in my spreadsheets. But the element of the CEO understanding the financials is also when the business is making too much profit, that it's not investing back into its systems, processes, and people. And so whatever that level is, that there's an element of foregoing today's extra profit or today's profit in order to invest in the business. And that's what the CEO has to be working on in order to execute on the strategy.
Correct. So, mate, I think they're the four things when you've got your CEO hat on. You can imagine this. You can dashboard this up, right? Like,
I can see some colourful panels and some signals of red lights.
But it's a simplistic way to map and monitor this and get the numbers right and the data right, and then look at that and then link that with real life and what's going on. And it's so much fun. Like, it's just that there to me, like, that's just so much fun.
Craig Kouimanis for CEO. There we go. You heard it here first. He's applying for all roles associated with people, process, clients, and financials. So that was a quick one of Uncommon Sense to round out our live Uncommon Sense marathon. For those that have been listening, that'll be releasing between now and Christmas, heading towards our personal goals of 100 episodes by Christmas. And I think we've rented the Opera House for episode number 100.
Look forward to it, mate.
Thanks very much for listening.
Bye.